Hey guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the new updated 13-inch MacBook Pro with Retina display. Now for the most part, these are spec upgrades, but we do get one major hardware change, and that's the new Force Touch trackpad, which is also launching with the all-new Retina 12-inch MacBook, which we'll have to review next month. But the updates here include the new Broadwell processors, Intel Iris Graphics 6100 for better GPU performance. We also get 1 hour of additional battery life, and we get faster PCIe storage, which is actually twice as fast as the previous generation model. Now in this video, I'm taking a look at the baseline configuration, which starts you off at $1299, and that gets you a 2.7 gigahertz dual-core Core i5 processor with 8 gigs of RAM and 120 gigs of SSD storage. So in this video, we'll compare this to the previous generation MacBook Pro, and then we'll take a look at that Force Touch trackpad to see what it adds. Alright, first step here is to unbox our MacBook Pro. So first thing we need to do is cut the plastic along the back. Lid. Definitely much heavier than the MacBook Airs I unboxed yesterday. There we go. Lift the tab here. There's our MacBook Pro 13-inch. We have a little plastic here to pull off, so let's pull the tab. Slide right out. So there we go. So first up is our 60-watt power adapter with our MagSafe 2 connector. So we have our cable here. That connector is protected by this little plastic cover. Great thing about these is that they're magnetic, so they snap on pretty easily and they pull off pretty easily, so you don't yank your computer off the desk if your cord gets snagged by somebody walking by. We also have our travel adapter here, so you can fold out the prongs. You can pull this off to add the extension cable or add the universal wall adapters when you're traveling. And of course you have cable management here, so you can wind up your cable and tuck it neatly in your notebook bag. We also have our extension cable neatly tied up. I'm not going to take it out, but we also have our paperwork here. So if we pop this open, we should find a quick start guide, nice colorful quick start guide that's referring to OS X Yosemite, which of course is installed on this computer. Of course we also have our ports, and we'll explore all this in this video. We have our safety, warranty, and regulatory information, as well as our Apple stickers and a cleaning cloth, something you don't get on the MacBook Air. This cleaning cloth is Apple branded if you look closely at the corner. And we have one more piece of packaging, which is a piece of paper covering the keyboard. Alright, next step is to boot up our MacBook Pro. Just going to hit the power button in the upper right corner. Now taking a closer look at our new MacBook Pro, again the design is unchanged here, all the changes are internal. Once again we have that beautiful 13.3-inch LED backlit display with IPS technology with a resolution of 2560 by 1600, good for 227 pixels per inch, so very much a Retina display. Now this is an IPS panel, so it looks great off-axis, certainly much better than the MacBook Air. Now that glossy panel also has an anti-glare coating, which is fairly effective here, since it's able to minimize glare even though you still get some reflection. We also have our full-size backlit QWERTY keyboard, and the top row is dedicated to certain functions. So for example, we have our screen brightness, we have mission control and launcher, we also have our keyboard brightness, media controls, as well as our power button. Now toward the top of the display, once again we have a FaceTime HD camera, good for 720p video. We also have a little LED indicator right next to it, along with an ambient light sensor which works to adjust the brightness of the display and the keyboard. Now, unlike the MacBook Airs, the MacBook Pros have an edge-to-edge glass panel, and at the edge of that panel you'll find a little rubber gasket that seals up the MacBook when it's closed and prevents the glass panel from mashing against the keyboard. On the left side of the computer we'll find the MagSafe 2 charging port, 2 Thunderbolt 2 ports, a USB 3.0 port, as well as a combination headphone and input jack, as well as 2 microphones. On the right side you'll find the second USB 3.0 port, an HDMI output, as well as a SD-XC card slot. Now toward the front we'll find a little notch for lifting up the lid of the MacBook Pro, and the hinge is perfectly weighted, so when you lift up the display it doesn't pick up the entire MacBook, but of course this is certainly much heavier than the MacBook Air. Now in terms of the hinge, once again that hinge is hiding the ventilation to the chassis of the MacBook Pro. This mechanism also allows the chassis to ventilate whether the display is closed or not. Now on the bottom of the MacBook Pro we have a single piece of aluminum held on with pentalobular screws. The idea here is that this really isn't meant to be user upgradable because everything is basically soldered to the motherboard, including the RAM. So if you want more than 8 gigs of RAM, you definitely want to order that when you buy your MacBook Pro. Now on the left-hand and right-hand side of the MacBook Pro you can see we have these ventilation grills, which also act as structural members and speaker outlets for the stereo speakers. Now the biggest new feature for the new MacBook Pro is the new Force Touch trackpad, which looks like the old one. It has a nice glass surface with multi-touch gestures. The big difference here is internally. So